Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for everyone for tuning in online, as well as everyone in our class today. Today I'm going to present to you a couple new guidelines in regards to condos and a couple changes that I feel that everyone should know about. We did this class in Spanish last week, and I want to kind of reiterate everything in English so everyone has it. My name is Dereck Infiesta. I'm with Absolute Home Mortgage. I've been in the industry since '08, so I've seen all the changes in the industry, good, bad, and my job here is to keep track of the rules and the changes and explain them to you. That way it makes all of my realtors better at their job and better at their listings, right? So I'm going to kind of rewind and go over previous rules so you guys have a guideline on what the changes are, right? So right now with sales prices through the roof on homes, we got to create a second option for your clients right now. We got to make sure that everyone has an option to purchase a home that's affordable for what they qualify for. Not every client's going to qualify for your $500,000 and $600,000 home, right? So before, when we used to qualify a condo, we would contact the listing agent or the HOA and ask them to send a condo budget. We would qualify a condo based upon the reserves on a condo budget. So you guys understand what reserves are. Reserves are the amount of monies collected by the HOA for each individual unit. That money collected, let's just say for easy numbers, it's $1 million for the year. After expenses, paying the HOA, utilities, water, cable, the guys who cut the trees, everything, right? The very end, you need at least 10% of what you collected. So if you had $100,000 left over and that was your reserve for the year, you now qualify and we can move forward and purchase your home. We also had a condo questionnaire filled out, and I'll go over the condo questionnaire for you. That way you guys have that in detail and what's in the condo questionnaire and what's important to us as lenders. Now, going back, if you had the 10% reserves, you had the condo questionnaire filled out, we knew we were able to go forward. You would qualify for your standard 3% down first-time home buyers, 5, 10, depending on your situation, if it was an investment or second home, right? So now let's fast forward to the unfortunate what happened in Miami, right? The Surfside Tower came down. So the lenders kind of took a step back and said, wow, this is, what's going on in this industry right now. Are condos lendable? So they came up with a couple restrictions and they said, man, we need to figure this out. We need to make sure we have the safety of everyone in the building as well. So part of the process and the reason they changed that, obviously from Surfside, was, again, they sent a letter to go over the safety of the property and different guidelines that we have to follow. So in this letter, if everyone online wants to Google or on their phone, the lender letter that was sent out, and this is the code you can look up. You can Google this and you'll see the full in detail. I have a link attached as well and we'll send out if needed. Now, I'm gonna go over the summary of what is, for what we need, what affects you as a listing agent or a buyer's agent and us as a lender, right, immediately. But you guys can go in detail for that full letter. So part of the process, and going back just real quick too, so you understand, if you didn't have the 10% reserves, you did not qualify. You could still purchase the home, but have to put 25% down. So you didn't have that option of putting 3% down anymore. You went from 3%, 5% to now only having the option of putting 25% down. So when I contact a borrower and said, hey, you have this option A or option B, but it was such a big spread, right? So it looked very unattractive to your clients because it was a risk. They would send a contract out and you would just hope that everything came back okay. So now it's a little different. It's really black and white. It is, if you don't meet these requirements, we don't lend. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to show you a plan B, right, and second option that everyone has an opportunity to get approved for these condos. So we're going to focus right now on Fannie Mae, on your conventionals, your standard conventional loans. So that's where we're going to focus on, and then we'll go to the secondary market for the next. So they sent out this letter. If you guys, again, want to follow along a little bit, this is what the letter looked like. It was in October. Talks about kind of why. The ongoing issue and because of the Surfside incident, right? So the biggest part here is significant deferred maintenance and unsafe conditions. So because of the building collapse, right, they said, wow, what's going on? And since there, the next morning, every HOA, they went out to their building and started looking for everything. They started looking for cracks in the building, in the pavement. Everyone's paranoid right at that point. So the lenders were as well. So what happened is now you have a ton of construction going on at a lot of different, condominium projects, right? So let's say, for example, the yacht club, which is in Boynton. I went in there the other day and there's scaffolding everywhere, right? They're painting and they're doing rebar work, right? Because they see a little crack in the foundation. They get their engineers out, and all kinds of construction. And you'll see that a lot of the older condos, you'll see that there's a lot of construction, there's a lot of different things going on. So you want to make sure that when you go to a listing or you go to a condo, drive by for your client, see if there's any construction going on. If you know there's construction, you see construction, you're going to know that we're not going to be able to lend on that, right? There's going to be an issue. We need to find out what kind of construction they're doing, how long it's going to take place for, if anyone needs to move out of their condo because of it. We got to ask a lot of questions. So big thing going on is construction. If you see construction or know of construction about to start, it's going to be very difficult to lend, right? So the next big change coming up now is any kind of special assessments. So special assessments are obviously projects that are coming up, whether paving the road, new seawall, adding docks, things like that. So you want to ask the HOA, the listing agent, are there any special assessments coming up? Special assessments, so people at home understand as well, is when you have a special assessment, that could change the cost of your HOA dues, right? Let's say there's a $40,000 special assessment, there's not enough room in the budget, all of a sudden they need to increase the HOA fees to pay for those costs over a period of time. So that's going to change your qualifications for your borrower as well. So if their debt to income ratio is really tight because that HOA was $250 a month, now it's going to $325, your borrower may no longer be qualified. So it's a big thing to make sure there's any kind of changes to the HOA budgets or special assessments coming up that will affect you tremendously on your approvals. Again, we're looking for solutions for your clients in that $300,000, $350,000 range that don't hit those $400,000 and $500,000 marks. So the income is going to be really tight on these, right? So we want to make sure we're able to get these approved. Your next section is reserve requirements. Now this is the biggest thing. This is where we're going to spend a little bit of more time. So like I said previously, if you had the 10% budget, I would ask you for your budget, you would bring it over to me, and I would review it. I would do the math calculation for you and make sure your HOA had the reserve requirements. Now, if you didn't, again, you put the 25% down, owner occupied, or 30% down, second home or investment, that was fine. Now, if you don't meet those requirements, that deal is completely dead now. You must have the 10% reserves, or we cannot lend. So it's very simple now. So before, you had to go through the process, it's submitted to an underwriter, you'd pay the fees for the condo questionnaire and everything else, and it would take a couple weeks to get that done. And then all of a sudden, you knew you weren't approved, right? Because the HOA didn't have the reserve requirements, and now that file had to be canceled, and it just took a lot of time, right? People were upset. Now it's very black and white. It is, you don't have the budget, we are not lending. Again, we have a plan B for you at the end. We're going to go over that, but we're talking, again, just straight conventional Fannie Mae. So at no reserve requirements, you are literally dead in the water right now. Before, again, appraisal was needed. That's it, appraisal and questionnaire. We would do a kind of limited review. We used to get you approved. Now we're dead in the water, okay? So the next thing I want to kind of go over with you is a condo questionnaire. Condo questionnaire, this can be found online as well. If you're online, you want to follow along. I do have some of the slides on here, and I'll go over some of that with you. And if you're at home, again, you're online, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. We have someone here that will speak up on your behalf to get any kind of clarity on that. So let me go back here on your... Okay, so the condo questionnaire, there's going to be 4 sections of this that's going to be pretty important. The condo questionnaire, there's 4 main sections that we look at for a lender. The most important parts is how many units, how many unit owners are delinquent 60 days on their dues. So now let's put this where we look at these projects or these projected budgets for the HOA, we're assuming that everyone's paying their HOA fees. So when we fill out the condo questionnaire in detail, this also costs money to your borrower. So it's a couple $100s, right, to your borrower to fill this information out. After they fill it out, they're invested, right? Like they want to move forward. So you hate for them to, get canceled. So as a listing agent or a buyer's agent, you want to make sure to ask some of these questions to the seller's agent, right? You want to see hey, is there any issues with this property? And knowing a couple of these questions and getting this information from the listing agent, or you as a listing agent providing this information, is very important. It just means your file is going to go that much quicker and going to guarantee the closing. So if you do a little bit of more homework now, will save you in the long term, right? You're going to close those properties fast and make your listing extremely attractive. So how many unit owners are 60 days delinquent on their dues? So we got to make sure that no one's delinquent. If you have 50% of the project, the HOA not paying their dues, right? Of the homeowners not paying their dues to the HOA, obviously they're not collecting those budgets, and now we need to readjust. Any active or pending litigation. So active or pending litigation is huge. I personally had a case last month that we had a pending litigation. It didn't pop up on the estoppel, but it did pop up on searches for the property. So we had to contact attorneys, and we had to everyone, and they're not the easiest people to deal with, right? They don't want to give information about the case. In this situation, the lady had did a slip and fall outside on some mildew on the floor, so it wasn't structural. So with a detailed history on the case and what she was suing for and how much money she was suing for and settling for, we were able to get the file approved. Over the long weekend, she actually settled the case for a lot less. We got the lawyer to sign off, and I was able to close the loan, thankfully. But there are cases where it don't go that smooth, right? Again, that would affect your budget for the HOA. If the HOA was only budgeted, let's say, for $1 million and she sued for $5 million, that would affect your assessment, right? All of a sudden, somebody has to pay for those fees. So that would go against you, and not everyone likes rate hikes because of a lawsuit. So we want to make sure that there are no pending cases. That is going to hold you guys up. So as a listing agent, definitely a great thing to ask. Do you have any pending litigation against your HOA right now? That's huge, right? Because that comes up out of nowhere, and mine wasn't even in the estoppel. So that's where we came up with a headache, because we did ask those questions. So a little more digging sometimes you have to do just to double check. Yes, Sarah.
What is the mile radius for a second home to not be considered an investment property?
So that's a great question. I kind of put this as think about yourself. So I have a home in Wellington, right? So if I'm going from my house, my second home would be considered like a vacation destination. Orlando, Key West, somewhere that you have to, your situation changes. If you want to have a vacation home Marathon on the water, it's something completely different. A vacation home. If you live in New York and have a house here, if I have a vacation home in a different state, but you can't have a vacation home in Stewart or 20 miles away because it's on the beach, or I can't live in Wellington and have a out west and just have a condo on the beach and call that a second home. If you're in realistic driving distance, that's not a second home, right? You consider an investment at that point. So vacation destination is going to be huge. If Orlando's 2 hours from here, realistically, so I can do that as second home, because that is a vacation destination. I leave my house, I'm going to go there, enjoy it, stay the night. So that's the main thing you want to focus on, is you want to see a change. You want to see something's completely different compared to where you're at now. So there's a couple guidelines, couple gray areas that we can get into that we can get approved. Mile radius is not necessarily is not a thing, because if you don't have a change of scenery, essentially, it's not it'll be a little different. So hopefully that answers your question, but I can get a little more in detail with that with you guys online as well. I'll have my contact information available if you need to contact me anytime for any more detailed questions as well. So to go to the next question here, the next part of your condo questionnaire, again, there's 4 parts, went over 2. Are more than 51% of units owner occupied? So we want to make sure that in a condo project, we don't want them to be full of investors. You don't want that to be fully rented out, right? We want to make sure that more than 51% of it is actually people living there, own the property. Second homes also qualify as owner occupied. So even though they're not there full time, they can be owner occupied. So we count all second homes, owner occupied together, and that would be your 51% majority. If your condo has more renters than that, then again, you are no longer qualified. That's going to be something that's going to hang up our condo questionnaire. Now, does any one person own more than 10% of the units? That's also a huge part of this. So you can't have a single investor that literally owns majority of this complex, right? So you have a condo situation where there's 100 units, and this guy owns 20 of them, one investor, because he had a great deal or fire sale, something like that. Again, that deal is dead, right? We want to make sure that not one person owns more than 10% of that complex, okay? So now I want to go over a couple options for you guys now. So just to kind of sum up, before I go into that now, again, the big change here was budgets. If that 10% reserve is not there, we cannot lend. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, right? Conventional loans, that's our biggest thing. Your condo questionnaire, when we fill those out, those 4 main points: how many unit owners are delinquent, any active or pending litigation, if someone owns more than 10%, and the occupancy level of owner occupied. Again, that also goes for second home. So those are the biggest things right now. Obviously in deferred maintenance, is there any construction going on? So as a listing agent, if you compile all this information and you have the budgets in your listing, for example. So right now, if I see a listing, first thing I'm going to ask, is there a budget included in that listing, right? When you present it to me as a buyer's agent, is there a listing there? Is a budget there? That's going to be the biggest thing. So you want to make sure that those budgets are there. And especially if you're a listing agent, provide the budget. Save everyone time. Put the budgets on there, make it attractive. If you can answer some of these questions I provided for you today on your listing, it's going to save a lot of time, especially when you're using a conventional loan. Because if you hit any of these X's and you check any of these boxes, yes, there's an issue, then that's obviously we're not going to be able to lend. So if you can answer these questions up front, it's going to make everything more attractive. You're going to sell your condo that much faster and make it that much easier for buyers, right? At least, again, on the conventional side. Any questions in regarding anything I've talked about so far before we get into our plan Bs? Good, good, perfect, all right. So our plan B, with anything, there's always a secondary market for people who don't qualify, because we don't want to just say you can't buy a home, go rent. So we're going to have what's called a warrantable condo, and a warrantable condo is going to be your standard conventional loans that we've been talking about, your government programs, right? The next thing you're going to have is non-warrantable condos. Non-warrantable condos are going to be the following. So everyone on the screens at home, you can read this, and everyone in here, can you see that well? Perfect. So non-warrantable condos are all subject to approval. You need to kind of hit all these qualifications. So minimum credit score, 680. So these programs are going to be credit score driven. They want to make sure that you have good credit. They want to make sure your debt to income ratio does not exceed 45%. So they want to make sure that you have some room there, right? So you make enough money to pay for these. Maximum 50% commercial space, so you can't have commercial units inside your condo, right? So they don't want to see commercial stuff going on there. 500 square feet, that's not really a problem here. This is more for, I think the smallest thing you'll see is like a hotel, right? That has like 500 square feet. So for condos, you're not gonna worry about that for your buyers. Single entity ownership, again, the same thing as our condo questionnaire, where it says we don't have one person that owns more than 10%. On here, they have a couple different guidelines for that. Maximum 49%. Non-gut conversion maximum, so if they're going to gut the whole unit, 65. No HOA, past dues, HOA, same thing. Minimum 25% of the total units are 60 days or more past due. So maximum 25% of the total units are 60 days or more past due. That's the max. They're not allowed to have it, right? So you can't have 30% of people not paying their dues. At that point, we have an issue conventional, now they have an issue in the secondary market. So you want to make sure all of these, again, you hit all these checkbox. So if you don't meet these requirements, these are your second options now. So you got to go over and say, okay, am I checking any of these, or am I good to go on all of these? Now, pricing is always a little more. You got to understand that. This is now a secondary option. So if your interest rates, for easy numbers, you currently qualify around 4%. These are going to be more in that 5.5%. Rates are going through the roof right now, right? Prices are going up, rates are going up right now. We don't see them falling anytime soon. Now, there is a projection come summertime that you might see a little drop in the rates, but the days of 2% are kind of gone for a little bit, right? So hopefully they go back in the threes, somewhere in the threes now come summertime. But right now, you're kind of in that 4% range. That's where it's at, unfortunately. So these units you're gonna see, and they're gonna be in that 5.5%, depending on their qualification, how much they put down, right? It's a risk-based industry. So on your primary residence when purchasing a condo, on your credit score driven programs, that means you did not meet the conventional requirements again. So once you bypass this, this is now your new second option. So a 720 credit score, 90% loan to value. So you can put a 10% down if you have great credit. So up to a 680, you still have 10% down. 700 credit scores, and it kind of trickles down from there. So a 660 for a primary residence would be the minimum at 80% down on this particular sheet here. Now your 740 second home, you have 80% for a second home on this one. And then their lowest here is a 80% loan to value for a condo second home. 65% LTV is going to be probably your 2-unit condo, things like that. Your investment, 1 to 4 units. Again, you have compensating factors, things like that. 720, you have your standard 25%, and then they're going to look at different factors, what you have for reserves, things like that. So that's where you get those lower LTVs, where you go 75 to 30% or 70 to 65% with a 680. So they're going to look at those compensating factors there. You're going to find a couple different lenders that are going to say, hi, I can get this approved FHA. There is maybe 1% of condos in period that you ever see get approved for FHA. So as a listing agent or a buyer's agent, you don't want to waste time on FHA condos. They're not going to get approved. So they're going to have what's called an FHA spot approval. Now the FHA spot approval is a very long form, it is very lengthy. This is a form that's provided by the government, okay? It's, again, very lengthy, and it costs several $100s to fill out. It's just like your condo questionnaire. You'll need to fill this out as well. For this unit, for example, for this, you can't have any kind of structural damage in the last 20 years, probably. Any kind of water leaks, fire. If you had an issue in your condo, you're not going to get approved FHA. And you're going to spend all this money and all this time, and you're going to get what? A lot of aggravated clients, right? Because they're going to be like, oh, FHA, I'm in, and they're excited because the possibilities of getting in just to get denied. And not only did they invest money in your condo questionnaire, but they invested money now in your spot approval. At this point, we've probably already ordered an appraisal on the property. Now they're probably $1,500 in, and all of a sudden they get denied, right? So what we don't want to do is waste clients' time. So when you're going for condos, we definitely want to go with our secondary market option, or we want to try to go to, go conventional, or we have to find another way to get your clients approved, and it's very hard. Going back to kind of interest rates and stuff like that and where we were at, I have I'll kind of leave you guys off with this. We've had a lot of change in the market, right? We've had just houses going skyrocketing on values. So sales prices continue to increase. A lot of people are, I'm gonna wait. Prices are gonna drop, The biggest problem that we have with that, and the reason why we think that's not true, is because of what's available, right? Inventory. So there's not a lot of inventory out there. So here's an example, and this was, we do a lot of research, and we do a lot of, we have a company that we use that provides us all this information, and we do a lot of research. And this guy named Barry Habib, he came out with these numbers, and this guy works directly for like Fannie Mae. He provides all this information, right? So The rates, he says he should go down this summer a little bit, like I said earlier. Maybe you'll see him dip in the threes, and he projects things, and he's pretty, this guy's amazing. This guy's a huge investor. Now, the housing market, these things are not going to drop anytime soon. He said, 30 years. I don't think it's going to be 30 years, but he doesn't think it's going to drop at all. And the reason for that is inventory. In December of 21, you guys know how many houses were for sale? There was 1.1 million houses for sale, right, in 2021 in December. And right now, as of January, when they did a projection, there's about 900. But there's 13 million people Googling homes right now. So the inventory is so far off that there's no way that housing is going to drop because there's not going to be inventory for all these people. What are they going to do? Now, you go back to when I started in this industry back in 07, 08, you can drive down the street and you'll see for sale signs everywhere, right? You'll see everything was for sale. There was massive inventory. There was almost 4 million homes available for sale in 2008. Now, if you look at 2007, 2008, what has changed also? Population, right? Population has grown exponentially in that time. So we got to kind of consider that, right? As more people and the population increased over that time, but housing was less, right? Less house available. How does that equate to the housing market's going to drop? How does that equate that the prices are going to drop anytime soon? So your clients who've been putting off, and I have clients myself who are like, oh, we're going to wait. We're going to wait. And I'm like, guys, at rates in 2% and rates at 4% pricing are a difference between your $500,000 approval and your $300,000 approval. You're going to end up paying for the same for those homes, right? Get your home now and be aggressive. And everyone's like, no, we're going to wait. Nah, prices are going up too fast, too high, it's going to pop. But how? If you think about it, if there's not enough people, if there's not enough homes to satisfy the needs of the consumers out there, and these are people who are online Googling right now. There's people Googling daily to find homes. Over 13 million different users are Googling for homes. But there's only 900,000 homes right now in inventory. Do you think those prices are going to drop anytime soon? No. I've seen crazy offers right now. I've seen offers $30,000 over. I'm doing a loan right now that's $50,000 over. The client is going to live in the home for 2 months because he's not ready to move out. So he's going to live rent-free for 2 months, and the guy's going to close on the home and buy the home and let the guy live there for 2 months for free. That's how insane these offers are getting because people, they're just doing whatever. Now, 2007, 2008, you were like, no, I want you were like, nope, I need a new roof. You might need to put a pool in your house for me to buy it. I mean, you were doing whatever you wanted. I need all closing costs, a new roof. I don't like that kitchen countertop. I need you to change that, right? That no longer exists. Now you're paying a lot of money extra. Now you're going above and beyond, and you're doing things like letting people live in your home for a couple months until they're ready to move out. So things have changed, and so right now with this, again, trying to teach you guys a little bit about condos today and your changes are to prepare you guys to be successful. We want to make sure that you guys understand your options and give your clients other options. In rental rates, what, $3,000, $4,000 I've seen a 3-bedroom home go for $4,000 and $5,000 in certain areas, right? So this client, the reason he's buying this house and letting this guy live there rent-free was because he was trying to rent a house and that they wanted $6,000 a month for it. So he was like, I can buy a house, let this guy live in it for a couple months, and it's only $3,000 mortgage. I'm actually saving $3,000 a month. So you got to look at your clients and say, listen, I understand this is not your ideal situation. Maybe you don't want to live in a condo, but when you can live in this condo at $1,800 a month or $1,500 a month, whatever that number is, but your rent options is $3,000, they're going to say, oh, I can own something. Maybe it's temporary. Maybe they need to change their financial situation. Maybe they need to change their job, or maybe they need to pay off some debt in order to get qualified for something higher. But in the meantime, they're not spending $3,000 on rent, and you're able to close them, and you're able to, provide them with a home for their family. And condos not always are 1-1, right? You can get a 3-bedroom condo and live very comfortably. The condos on the water, this might be a little out of the price range, but again, if you can get a second option for your clients, and that's going to be our main thing we're trying to focus on today, is providing people with not that $500,000 approval, a place to go. in a place that doesn't have a $3,000 rent. Does anyone have any questions online, or any questions here I can answer for you? We're good. All right, guys, that concludes our condo, guidelines, our changes. If you guys have any other questions, please feel free to contact me. Come by my office, and we'll send out all my contact information as well to everyone online. You guys can call me directly if you guys need anything. So again, thanks again for tuning in, and you guys have a great day.